You know that feeling? Like you're running hard on a treadmill, putting in all the effort, but you're not actually going anywhere.
Oh, absolutely. Like you're stuck in a loop.
Yeah, exactly. Good intentions, trying hard, but the results just aren't there. It's this gap between what you want and what's happening. Super frustrating.
It really is. And can be so discouraging, can it? Your first thought might be, okay, I just need to try even harder.
Right. Double down.
But, what if that feeling of being stuck is actually, well, a signal, like a prompt to just pause for a second
Okay.
and take a breath and maybe try to understand what's really going on underneath it all.
Right, right. And that's exactly what we're going to dig into today. We've got a couple of really interesting sources to help us. First one is called The Potter's Wheel, Shaping Your Life Through Truth Assessment. Uses that great image, potter and clay.
Powerful metaphor.
And the second is a section called Starting with the Truth, Reclaiming Your Momentum Through a Discipleship Baseline, a Personalized Plan. Sounds very practical.
Yeah, that one offers more of a step-by-step way to look at what might be holding you back.
So our mission today is basically to pull out the best bits from both of these.
Right. We want to give you some actionable insights. Not just the why you feel stuck, but maybe some ideas on how to start building a plan for, real growth in the areas that actually matter to you.
Like getting that momentum back.
Exactly. A concentrated dose of clarity, maybe a bit of a jump start.
Okay, let's start with that term from the first source. Discipleship baseline. It's presented as more than just like taking inventory, right?
Yeah, it's framed as almost an act of worship.
Worship, how so?
Well, the idea is that, honestly, looking at where you are, it's not about judgment. It's more about humbly saying, okay, I need some guidance here.
Ah, I see.
The source connects it to Psalm 139, David, asking God to search his heart, to really see what's inside. It's like inviting that deeper insight.
That makes me think of when Jesus asked his disciples questions like, who do you say I am? In Matthew 16.
Exactly. Good parallel.
He knew the answer, but he wanted them to examine their own beliefs.
Precisely. And Paul in 2 Corinthians 13 telling people to examine yourselves, test yourselves. The point isn't, are you good enough to earn God's favor? No.
Right.
It's more like, let's get real about where you stand right now, acknowledging that we all need grace.
Yeah. That context is important. The source also uses an analogy, something about a farmer.
Right. The farmer assessing the soil before planting. It's a great illustration.
You wouldn't just throw seeds anywhere, would you?
Exactly. You need to know what you're working with. Is the ground fertile? Are there rocks, weeds? You need that assessment first.
So understanding our own spiritual soil, strengths, weaknesses, heart condition, all that.
It's foundational. It's the necessary first step before you can realistically cultivate any kind of lasting growth.
Okay. Now, the second source, it goes deeper into why we get stuck. It talks about these underlying reasons, psychological, practical.
Environmental, motivational.
Yeah.
Yeah, it covers a lot of ground.
Let's start with the imposter syndrome and perfectionism loop. How does that trap us?
What's really insightful there is how it connects to our sense of identity. The source suggests it taps into those deep-seated feelings of maybe not being good enough, echoing that sense of shame or inadequacy from, the full narrative.
Wow.
So this drive for perfection becomes this impossible quest to prove our worth, basically. And often it just leads to paralysis. You're afraid to fail, so you don't even start.
That makes so much sense. You're so scared of messing up, you just freeze, and then boom, you feel stuck. Okay, what about the overwhelmed and underskilled paradox? I think a lot of people feel that one.
Yeah, definitely. But the key point here is it's not necessarily about lacking intelligence or talent.
Oh.
It might mean you're trying to operate way outside your natural gifting or calling. Think Romans 12 or 1 Corinthians 12 about different parts of the body having different functions.
Oh.
Or maybe you just haven't had the right training for what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
It's less about try harder and more about, am I in the right place?
Yeah.
Or do I need different tools?
Like trying to build a house with only a hammer, like you said before?
Exactly. You need the saw, the level, the right tools and skills for the job. It's about seeking wisdom, maybe getting some training.
Got it. Then there's the silent expectations trap. That feels very relevant today with social media and everything.
It really does. The source points out how much our environment affects us. If you're constantly in a place where your efforts aren't seen or maybe your passions are kind of dismissed, that can just drain you. It makes it so hard to move forward. It really highlights why, healthy boundaries and supportive relationships are crucial.
Absolutely. And the last one, the burnout and disconnect cycle, that feeling of just complete exhaustion and like, what's the point?
This often comes down to priorities, doesn't it?
Mm,
Putting, say, work or achievement above everything else, neglecting things like rest, reflection, spiritual
yeah,
connection. The source even brings up the Sabbath, that idea from Exodus, that our value isn't just tied to what we produce.
that's a powerful reminder.
And interestingly, it also mentions the fear of success. Sometimes, maybe subconsciously, we hold ourselves back because we're afraid achieving something might pull us away from what we think truly matters, or maybe change us in ways we fear.
Hmm, that's a complex one. Okay, so we've got a better handle on why we might feel stuck. How do we actually start moving? The second source talks about getting personal, defining growth for ourselves.
Yes, this is so important. Before you try to fix anything, you need to know where you're trying to go, right?
Makes sense.
So the source lists these different dimensions: professional stuff, creative expression, relationships, finances, health and well-being,
A whole
range of things.
And it encourages you to think, okay, which of these really resonate with me? Where do I feel that pull to grow?
And the example used is professional and creative goals, which, yeah, that's common. But the point is, it's different for everyone. Exactly. You need to identify your specific areas. And it's also key to see how these roadblocks we talked about can link up.
How so?
Like maybe imposter syndrome gets worse because you're in an unsupportive environment.
Right.
Or feeling overwhelmed practically leads to burnout motivationally. Seeing those connections helps you tackle them more effectively.
Okay, so moving from understanding to action, both sources talk about starting with, well, reality, an honest assessment, a baseline.
Precisely. The first calls it a humble inventory. The second, an honest assessment. Whatever you call it, it's about getting a clear, truthful picture of right now.
And they emphasize that this honesty isn't weakness, it's actually strength.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It takes courage to look squarely at your current reality, to the essential foundation.
So let's get practical. What's a first step? The sources mention a life audit questionnaire.
Right. Microwin, #1. The idea is to create or maybe expand a questionnaire that covers key areas. Definitely includes spiritual practices. How's your prayer life? Engaging with scripture. But also broader things. What skills do you have? What resources? Who's in your support network? What drains your energy? What lifts it? What are your core values, and are you living by them?
So really comprehensive.
Yeah, think of it like a personal well-being checkup. Or like you're a detective gathering clues about your own life right now.
Okay, so first, micro-win. Create the audit. Then what?
Micro-win, #2. Fill it out with radical honesty.
Radical honesty. Okay.
Don't sugarcoat things. Don't downplay the gaps. And one source even suggests maybe asking a trusted friend or mentor to look it over with you.
Ooh, that adds accountability. And maybe some perspective.
Exactly. It can be incredibly helpful.
Okay, after we filled it out, honestly.
Micro-win, #3. Identify the key gaps. Look at your answers. Where are the biggest differences between where you are now and where you feel you should be or want to be, especially relating to your spiritual life and core values? Pick maybe 3 to 5 main
Your
areas.
focus areas.
Right. So you're not trying to fix everything at once. That just leads back to overwhelm.
And throughout this whole assessment part, mindset matters, doesn't it?
Hugely. Remember, vulnerability here is strength. Self-awareness is the bedrock. The sources even suggest affirmations like, I am willing to surrender, or I am courageous enough to face this.
Okay, baseline established. Now, how do we start chipping away at those barriers, the psychological, the environmental ones?
Right. This is the next phase. Seeking divine renovation, or deconstructing the barriers, depending on the source.
What does that look like?
Well, microwin #4 suggests really dedicating time to prayer or reflection, digging into why you feel like an imposter or why you chase perfection, and journaling about what comes up, getting to the roots.
Okay, introspection. And the environmental stuff, the toxic situations or lack of support.
That's microwin #5. Actively seek out and nurture those supportive relationships. And, just as importantly, consciously limit exposure to negative or draining influences. Maybe schedule regular check-ins with people who build you up.
Be intentional about your environment. Got it. And microwin #6. That's about the inner voice.
Exactly. Practicing gratitude is a big one. Journaling it, saying it, sharing it. And then actively challenging that negative self-talk.
How?
Replace it with evidence-based affirmations. So instead of, I always mess up, maybe it's, okay, I made a mistake there, but I learned from it, and I'm capable of improving. The second source gives examples like that. It also mentions practical tools, maybe spiritual formation books, CBT workbooks, or apps.
Useful resources and accountability again, like sharing journal insights.
Yes, that keeps coming up as important.
Okay, final phase now. Building momentum. Tackling the practical and motivational stuff.
Yeah, embracing God's pace or building momentum. So, micro win, #7, is about skill development. Pick one small, concrete skill related to your goals, career, or creative. Find an online course, get a book, talk to someone who knows it, just one small step.
One small step. I like that. And making time for the important stuff, like creative work or spiritual disciplines.
Micro win, #8, schedule it. Put it in your calendar like any other important appointment. Treat it as sacred time. The second source suggests making it fun, like a creative challenge, with small goals and maybe little rewards.
Makes it less of a chore. And breaking down big goals.
That's micro win, #9. Big goals are overwhelming. Break them into tiny daily actions. What's one small thing you can do today? And crucially, build in rest. Real Sabbath rest. Disconnect, recharge.
Energy management comes into play too, right? Sleep, self-care.
Absolutely. Can't run on empty. Prioritize rest, good nutrition, sleep. And mindfulness practices can help too, just to reduce anxiety and stay focused.
It really does boil down to small, consistent steps, doesn't it? Not some huge leap. Back to the potter's wheel analogy, slow, steady shaping.
Exactly. It's about progress, not perfection. It's about yielding to that process, trusting that even feeling stuck can be an invitation to something deeper, something transformative.
And remembering you're not doing it in a vacuum. Both sources emphasize that guidance and support are there.
Definitely. You're not alone in this.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe a final thought for you, the listener.
Considering everything we've discussed, all those micro wins, the small steps, which single one resonates most with where you feel stuck right now?
Just one. What feels like the most relevant first move for you?
Perhaps committing to just that one small action this week could be the start, beginning of digging deeper and really starting to shift that momentum.